Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
50 Worst Sex Addicts in Hollywood History. Ever wondered which Hollywood stars have the wildest, most scandalous love lives? Buckle up, because today we're diving into the 50 worst sex addicts in Hollywood history. From secret affairs to shocking scandals, we've got it all. Let's get into the juicy details. Number 50, Hedy Lamar. Did you know the stunning Hedy Lamar had a love life as dramatic as her film roles? Her numerous affairs and scandalous escapades were the talk of Hollywood. Lamar was a talented actress, and she starred in several successful films, including Algiers in 1938, Samson and Delilah 1949, and White Cargo 1942.
You always doubt me, don't you?
However, she was also known for her beauty and her many affairs. Hedy Lamar's captivating beauty and wit attracted many, and her marital history was as diverse as her film roles. Hedy Lamar's husbands, spanning from prominent businessmen to aspiring actors, each played a significant role in shaping her life. Her most recent love interest was Louis J. Boyce, a distinguished lawyer she married in 1963. Their matrimony, however, ended in divorce just 3 years later. Notable among Hedy Lamar's ex-husbands are screenwriter Jeune Maro and British actor John Loder, both of whom made their own contributions to the film industry. Another noteworthy relationship was with Friedrich Mandel, an affluent arms manufacturer who presented strong opposition to her acting career, leading to their eventual separation. Number 49, David Niven. English actor David Niven cultivated a suave and sophisticated public persona, but in private gallivanted with a host of Hollywood starlets, among them, allegedly, a young Marilyn Monroe. For a while between marriages, Niven shared a bachelor pad with close friend Errol Flynn, until the swashbuckler's scandalous lifestyle proved too much for even a seasoned philanderer such as himself. His women came in all shapes and sizes, but what they all have in common is that they're all women that David Niven has either dated or canoodled with. Grace Kelly and Ava Gardner are a great starting point for you to rank your favorites on the list. His conquests included Princess Marina, widow of the Duke of Kent, and, according to Herodotus, Princess Margaret, while for her part, she had a quickie with U.S. President John Kennedy and caught a dose of chlamydia from him. Number 48, Lana Turner. Lana Turner was one of Hollywood's original movie stars, but she also made a huge impact on pulp culture off-screen. Turner was also one of America's original celebrities. Her personal life became a matter of public interest in a way that's commonplace now, but was new then. Lana Turner starred in some of the biggest movies of the 40s and 50s, and her love life was similarly dramatic.
Just tell me one thing. That we'll always be together.
Turner's public romances also contributed to her notoriety. She was married 8 times to 7 men in her life. She also had affairs with Tyrone Power. Turner considered him the love of her life, and Frank Sinatra. But only one of her relationships resulted in legal trouble. Her dalliance with a mobster ended with the man dead and her daughter defending herself in court from accusations of murder. Everything came to a head on April 4th, 1958. The couple had another intense argument, only this time, Stompanato threatened to kill Turner, her grandmother, and her daughter, Cheryl Crane. Crane overheard what was happening, grabbed a knife, and went to her mom's room to protect her. The 14-year-old stabbed Stompanato in the stomach. He died at the scene. Number 47, Rudolph Valentino. Known as the Latin Lover, did Rudolph Valentino's off-screen romances match his sultry film persona? The jury is still out on just how much of a Casanova Cinema's first screen lover was. Hollywood's original Latin lover, a term that was invented for Rudolph Valentino by Hollywood moguls. Rudolph Valentino was without a doubt one of Hollywood's first great sex symbols, and women did literally swoon at his feet. He married actress Jean Acker in 1919, but a divorce quickly followed. His second marriage to Natasha Rambova was turbulent and unhappy. Affairs with other women became commonplace. He also dated sexy Pola Negri and was also linked to Vilma Banky. It was only after Valentino's untimely death at age 31 that rumors about his sexuality began to emerge. Claims that the actor was gay are numerous, but unsubstantiated. Number 46, Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth, American actress, dancer, and producer, achieved fame during the 1940s as one of the era's top stars, appearing in 61 films over 37 years.
I'm not very good at zippers. But maybe if I had some help.
I'll help you.
However, while Rita lit up the screen with her sensual beauty and trademarked red hair, she paid a price to get there. Then Rita was talent spotted by a Fox film producer. Photos of Rita Cancino show a raven-haired, slightly plump Latin American dancer. She had small parts in a string of films, and that might have been the summit of her career. But another man was about to change all that. A 41-year-old lounge lizard and car dealer named Edward Judson. Rita admitted later, "I could never have made the grade in Hollywood without him. I was just too backward. My whole career was his idea." Judson ordered her to sleep with men who could help her career. One of these was the head of Columbia Pictures, the ruthless Harry Cohn, who expected sex from his female stars as part of the deal. But even though she became the mistress of Howard Hughes, Rita courageously drew the line at Cohn. Hayworth was married and divorced 5 times. She had affairs with several of her leading men, most notably Victor Mature in 1942, during the filming of My Gal Sal. Number 45, James Stewart. Jimmy Stewart was known for playing characters of strong moral fiber who upheld the traditions of family and the American way. Off-screen, too, he was the model movie star, the quintessential everyman. On-screen, and to his adoring public, Stewart was the classic nice guy, a clean-cut gentleman. In 1949, he married socialite Gloria McLean, relatively late in life at 41, and the couple remained devoted for 44 years. Before that, the actor had many high-profile but hushed-up lovers and scandalous affairs with silver screen goddesses like Eleanor Powell, Loretta Young, Ginger Rogers, Norma Shearer, and Dinah Shore. 10 years before his marriage, he had a torrid and short-lived affair with one of Hollywood's most enduring icons that consumed the actor so much he was unable to control himself. Following one passionate scene, the director's fury at the time paled next to the actress's when Stewart ended the affair.
6 months, you've done everything you could to antagonize me, and now you have nerve enough
You haven't been very nice to me either.
Number 44, Elizabeth Taylor. With 8 marriages, Elizabeth Taylor's love life was anything but boring. How did her romances shape her legendary status? Famous for her unique beauty and dramatic talents, Elizabeth Taylor was also known for being one of the most notorious seductresses in Hollywood. Her most scandalous moment came when she hooked up with singer Eddie Fisher, who was then married to her best friend, Debbie Reynolds. Taylor and Fisher later wed, but ultimately divorced. 8 marriages punctuated Liz Taylor's rocky personal life. Although almost all of her relationships ended in a train wreck, nothing seemed to be able to stop Taylor from dusting herself off and finding something crazier every time. Her first marriage to Conrad Hilton, yes, now of Mad Men fame, was marked by gambling, drinking, and abusive behavior. Her 4th marriage began when Eddie Fisher, then married to Debbie Reynolds, consoled Taylor following the death of her 3rd husband. Her legendary, tumultuous marriage to Richard Burton ended after 2 attempts and 2 messy divorces. Number 43, Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn was a Belgian-born actress and fashion icon who was known for her elegance, grace, and beauty. As one of the biggest actresses to reach stardom in the 1950s and 60s, the Jamin Audrey Hepburn was often seen as a contrast to the bombshell Marilyn Monroe, with her slim physique and fawn-like face, making it easy for Hollywood to label her the anti-Marilyn. But though the Belgian actress seemed like a hopeless romantic, Hepburn still had her fair share of tumultuous loves and Hollywood affairs. Though, unlike the Sleeping with Sirens song suggests, she was never in a relationship with James Dean. Hepburn had a number of affairs with famous men, including William Holden, Robert Anderson, and Ben Gazzara. She was also rumored to have had affairs with Marlon Brando and Gregory Peck.
Mr. Bradley, I have a confession to make.
Confession?
Yes, I ran away last night.
Number 42, Tyrone Power. A favorite matinee idol in the 1930s and early 1940s, Tyrone Power took full advantage of a bachelor lifestyle before he married his first wife, French actress Annabella. On the set of 1938's Suez, Power met one woman that he just couldn't get out of his head, the alluring Annabella. Both Power and Annabella were not faithful to one another. While Annabella pursued a tryst with author Ronald Dahl, Power set his sights on a very popular leading lady, Judy Garland. Garland fell head over heels for the married actor, and as their illicit romance grew serious, she tried to convince Power to leave his wife. Of course, Annabella being Annabella, she wasn't about to grant a divorce that easily. Despite their efforts to make it work, Power and Annabella came to a standstill and separated. Later, she commented, "We were terribly sad about it, both of us, but we knew we were drifting apart. I don't think then, and I don't think now, that it was his fault or mine." The divorce was amicable as it could be, and once again, Tyrone Power became an eligible bachelor.
I saved your life getting you out of Germany. You saved mine getting me out of this mess, so we're even. It's all over now.
He later had affairs with Lana Turner and Judy Garland and, by all accounts, lusted after men, including Errol Flynn and Cesar Romero. Number 41, Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren started acting at 16, became a global icon in her 20s, was adored by Peter Sellers and Richard Burton. Sophia Loren inhibits such a high-spec level of superstardom that she doesn't even know the Rolling Stones wrote a song about her. Two things are indisputable: that Sophia is a fine actor, the first to win an Oscar for a foreign language film, 1960's Two Women, and that men have always dropped like narcissized flies in her presence. Sophia Loren is an Italian actress who is considered to be one of the greatest actresses of all time. Loren has had a number of affairs with famous men, including Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, Peter Sellers, and Omar Sharif. She was also rumored to have had affairs with Marlon Brando and John F. Kennedy. Number 40, Tony Curtis. On September 29th, at the age of 85, screen legend Tony Curtis died of a heart attack, leaving behind a wife, 5 children, including actress Jamie Lee Curtis, and millions of saddened fans. He also leaves behind quite a sexual legacy. Best known on screen for wearing a skirt in Some Like It Hot, Tony was equally famous off-screen for chasing skirts. It's been reported that the devilishly handsome actor, who once lived at the Playboy Mansion, bedded 1,000 women, among them a young Norma Jean Baker, before she transformed into Marilyn Monroe. Tony first met Marilyn in 1949, when she was still an unknown. The two began a passionate relationship, which was ultimately derailed by their showbiz ambitions. In his memoir, American Prince, Tony says, "I loved her, and she loved me, but we both wanted to be in the movies, and that meant everything." Curtis found time to marry 6 times. His union with Janet Leigh provided the couple with 2 daughters, Jamie Lee Curtis and Kelly Curtis. Number 39, Gloria Swanson. Gloria Swanson was a silent film star who was known for her beauty, glamour, and independence. While she was best known for her role as fading movie legend Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson was a movie star who lived her life on her own terms. The diminutive actress, 5'1", lived extravagantly. She spent money lavishly and loved a lot of men, none wisely or well, making headlines with every romance and causing her studio, Paramount, to add a morality clause to her contract. She married 6 times and had numerous lovers. Swanson had a number of affairs with famous men, including Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., Charlie Chaplin, and Cecil B. DeMille. She was also rumored to have had affairs with Rudolph Valentino and Douglas Fairbanks. Number 38, Desi Arnaz. His name is forever associated with Lucille Ball, whom he married in 1940. Desi Arnaz, however, was a serial adulterer. His problems with alcohol and infidelity deepened to the point where his behavior created national scandals. Ball divorced him in 1960. It is well documented that Arnaz cheated on Ball, and the band leader and actor admitted it himself. But one Hollywood insider made quite the bold claim about Arnaz's cheating. Escort to the Stars Scott Bowers claimed that he procured women for the I Love Lucy star at the rate of 2 or 3 a week. In his interview with the Daily Beast, Bowers said that during the height of I Love Lucy's popularity, he was setting Arnaz up with 2 or 3 women per week. His type was any nice-looking girl who was a quick lay, he claimed of the star. Number 37, Ursula Andress. Ursula Andress is a Swiss actress and model who is best known for her role as Honey Rider in the first James Bond film Dr. No. She's also known for her beauty and her promiscuity. Andress had a number of affairs with famous men. Andress has stated that she lost her virginity to married actor Daniel Galen in 1953 when she was 17 and he was 32. She dated Dennis Hopper and James Dean after moving to the U.S. in 1955, and that same year began an affair with actor-director John Derek, a married father of 2 who walked out on his wife, Hedy Bears, and their family to be with 19-year-old Andress. Derek and Andress wed on February 2, 1957 in Las Vegas, but separated in 1964 over her affair with Once Before I Die co-star Ron Ellie, officially divorcing in 1966. During the interim, the separated but still married Andress publicly dated John Richardson, her co-star from She, and Marcello Mastroianni, her co-star from The 10th Victim. From 1965 to 1972, Andress lived with her up-to-his-ears co-star John Pel Belmondo. He was, she says, the love of her life. Her next live-in relationship was with another co-star, State Line Motel's Fabio Testi, from 1973 to 1977, except for 1 year when they broke up. She also dated Ryan O'Neal, John DeLorean, Helmut Berger, Paolo Pazzagalli, Johnny Dorelli, Franco Nero, with whom she later starred in Red Bells, Nels Van Patten, and Ricky Martin. Number 36, Mickey Rooney. Short in stature, he may have been, but what Mickey Rooney lacked in height, he made up for elsewhere. Incredibly, Rooney was in pictures for 88 years, which gave him enough time to marry 8 times. But his was a largely unhappy and unfulfilled personal life, which he compensated for by betting dozens of actresses, among them Lana Turner, Elizabeth Taylor, and Carol Landis. He married Hollywood star Ava Gardner on January 10, 1942, but their marriage only lasted 16 months. He married Betty Jane Reyes on September 30, 1944, ending in divorce in June 1948. Mickey then married to Michigan-born actress Martha Vickers the following year. They divorced in 1952, and in the same year, he married actress Elaine Devery, then actress Carolyn Mitchell in 1958, and stayed with her until her death in 1966. She was murdered. Mickey then married Marge Lane, a close friend of Carolyn, in 1966. They divorced in 1967 after 100 days of marriage. In 1969, Mickey married Carolyn Hockett, but they divorced in 1974. Mickey married his current wife, actress Jan Rooney, on July 28, 1978. He has been with Jan longer than all of his other wives put together. Number 35, Raquel Welch. Raquel Welch was an American actress and model who was known for her beauty and her sex appeal. Welch had a number of affairs with famous men, including Richard Burton, Elvis Presley, and Frank Sinatra. She was also rumored to have had affairs with Warren Beatty and Robert Wagner. The Golden Globe winner married 4 times between 1959 and 2003. She first tied the knot to high school sweetheart James Welch, who she welcomed her 2 and only children with. Following their divorce, Raquel wed Patrick Curtis, Andre Weinfeld, and Richard Palmer, respectively. Number 34, Spencer Tracy. Spencer Bonaventure Tracy, April 5, 1900 to June 10, 1967, was an American actor. He was known for his natural performing style and versatility. One of the major stars of Hollywood's golden age, Tracy was the first actor to win 2 consecutive Academy Awards for Best Actor from 9 nominations. Tracy met actress Louise Treadwell while they were both members of the Wood Players in White Plains, New York, the first stock company Tracy joined after graduating. The couple was engaged in May 1923 and married on September 10th of that year between the matinee and evening performances of his show. Tracy frequently engaged in extramarital affairs, including with co-stars Joan Crawford in 1937 and Ingrid Bergman in 1941. He had an affair with Myrna Loy in 1935 and 1936. Spencer Tracy's affair with Katharine Hepburn is one of the great love stories of classic Hollywood. But Tracy was a famously tormented and seasoned alcoholic and strayed often from the relationship to seek solace in the arms of dozens of other actresses and, allegedly, several men too. Number 33, Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks had an extraordinary brief but impactful film career. She hated Hollywood, seeking instead to build a haven, as this Pop Matters piece memorably puts it, out of sex, books, and gin. Brooks did, however, like to have a good time. She left her first husband, director Eddie Sutherland, after she fell in love with George Preston Marshall, owner of the Washington Redskins. She then left Marshall to marry someone else, whom she then left after less than 6 months. Brooks also had many lovers, including for a night, Greta Garbo, and frequently posed nude. It was all short-lived, though. Brooks's life in film was over by the time she was 26. But though her subsequent poverty caused a lot of problems, she never really regretted leaving the limelight. Number 32, Bert Reynolds. Bert Reynolds achieved considerable fame in the 1970s as one of cinema's most iconic sex symbols. He famously posed naked in the April 1970 issue of Cosmopolitan.
Well, you know, all those pictures, Navajo Joe, they paid off, you know?
When Bert Reynolds died at age 82, everyone remembered him as a movie star who set out to have as much fun as possible on and off the screen, and wildly succeeded, according to The Hollywood Reporter. He married twice, but still found time to date the likes of Dinah Shore, Sally Field, Catherine Deneuve, and Faye Dunaway. Tennis co-star Chris Everett and country singer Tammy Wynette also fell for his dark, brooding looks. Number 31, Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich was another bisexual actress who had many affairs, including one with Joan Crawford. Dietrich was known for her androgynous style and her rebellious spirit. Dietrich's affair with Crawford was one of the most talked about scandals in Hollywood at the time. The two actresses were both at the height of their careers, and their relationship was seen as a taboo. Dietrich's bisexuality was a secret that she kept for most of her life. She was afraid that if the public knew the truth, it would damage her career. However, in her later years, Dietrich became more open about her sexuality. She spoke about her bisexuality in interviews, and she even wrote a book about her life called Marlene in 1982. Number 30, Richard Burton. In true Hollywood tradition, Richard Burton had a habit of sleeping with most of his leading ladies, even while still married to his first wife, Sybil Williams. In Burton's heyday, between 1947 and 1975, he made love to at least one new woman every other day, with the total tally reaching around 2,500. At times, his promiscuity rivaled even that of the great 70s playboy, Warren Beatty. The big difference, though, was that Burton was married and made the vast majority of his conquests virtually under the noses of the first two Mrs. Burtons. Not only that, but for most of that time, he had a marital sex life that would have sated any other man. Until his late 40s, Burton had an insatiable appetite for sex. He didn't need to love the woman he was seducing or to be loved by her, nor had he any desire to possess her. If she was willing, he was happy to do the deed anywhere. Often, he never even knew his lover's name. Women were drawn to him as if by magnetic force. Many enthused later about his glinting gray-green eyes, full of mischief, but his chief seduction tool was undoubtedly his mellifluous voice. Number 29, Vivian Lee. Best known for splendidly bringing both Scarlett O'Hara and Blanche Dubois to life, Vivian Lee was also known for her intensity and her beauty. But success and her notoriously volatile marriage to Sir Laurence Olivier didn't come easily or ethically. According to one of the many documentaries made about her, Lee went to see Laurence Olivier in a play and declared, "That's the man I'm going to marry." And a friend of hers who was with her had to point out, "Well, actually, you're already married." But this was all part of this ruthless ambition. People were to be cast by the wayside in those early days until she achieved what she really wanted. Olivier, too, was already married, but that didn't stop Lee from following him and his wife to where they were vacationing in Capri. Lee and Olivier hooked up, despite the fact that his spouse, actress Jill Esmond, was pregnant. The less than virtuous Olivier gave her the boot and married Lee soon after. Number 28, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was never the sort of person to wait around for the casting couch to come to her. When Vincent Sherman was prepping his feature, The Damned Don't Cry, Crawford invited him over to check out some of her previous work and then check out a little more than that. After Sherman's wife found out, she's said to have replied, "I guess it's too much to ask of any man to turn on the opportunity to sleep with Joan Crawford." After a rough childhood, Crawford set out to take Hollywood any way she could, which often meant using her feminine wiles to procure better roles and more close-ups. Crawford had relationships with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and scores of other less famous Hollywood types during her life. Her descent from fame was long and painful. After numerous attempts to stay relevant and even more affairs, she ended her days in a small New York apartment as a self-described ex-movie star. Number 27, Kirk Douglas. Anyone in Hollywood who lives beyond 100 obviously takes good care of themselves, and Kirk Douglas was fit. Really fit. Possessed of an Olympian physique and the stamina and aggression to match. Douglas enthusiastically slept his way through the 1950s and 1960s, bedding numerous iconic actresses, including Rita Hayworth and Marlene Dietrich. He first married and later divorced Diana Dill, mother of Michael. Despite his infidelity, he remained married to his second wife, Ann Bidens, for almost 60 years, with Ann choosing to stand by him through it all. Number 26, Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly was another old Hollywood actress who was known for her promiscuity. She was known as the Ice Princess due to her cool and elegant demeanor, but she had a fiery side that she kept hidden from the public. Kelly had numerous affairs with famous men, including Gary Cooper, Clark Gable, Bing Crosby, and Marlon Brando. She was also rumored to have had love affairs with Alfred Hitchcock and Cary Grant. Number 25, Marilyn Monroe. One of the few classic sex symbols to remain a household name, Marilyn Monroe set a standard for Hollywood sexuality and crazy antics that remains unmatched today. Not only was Monroe linked romantically to fellow actors, but she had relationships with luminaries in pretty much every field of her day. Her tempestuous relationships with Joe DiMaggio, John F. Kennedy, and Arthur Miller have been well documented. She was also the first Playboy cover girl, and boy, did she have her fair share of demons. Drugs and psychological problems plagued Monroe through her many relationships. Some historians believe she may have been schizophrenic. Though Jackie Kennedy turned a blind eye to many of JFK's indiscretions, the attention brought about by Monroe's high-profile fling with the president was too much for her. By many accounts, Kennedy's rejection fueled the final slide into booze and pills that finally killed Monroe. Number 24, Elvis Presley. Over 40 years since his death, Elvis Presley's astonishing good looks still gets the singer regularly voted as the world's most beautiful man. Charming and bashful, Presley was, by all accounts, a real hound dog in bed. Early girlfriends numbered Natalie Wood and Tempest Storm. Starlets came and went before the king met his queen, Priscilla Beaulieu, whom he wed in 1967. Early on in her relationship with Elvis, Priscilla found intimate correspondence between him and actress Anita Wood. Later, the press reported on his affairs with co-stars like Viva Las Vegas's Anne Margaret. If Priscilla brought up his infidelity, arguments ensued. But Presley also found time to romance the likes of Juliette Prose and Sybil Shepherd. Number 23, Jean Harlow. From an early age, Jean Harlow, one of the first blonde bombshells of the sound era, was well acquainted with scandal. Married to an older man by 16 and posing nude by the time she was 17, her teenage exploits were enough to make any Disney star turn spring breaker blush. It turns out her early activities were just a warm-up for her later exploits. Jean Harlow was known for her sex appeal and her many affairs, including one with Clark Gable. She was one of the first Hollywood actresses to be known as a sex symbol, and her platinum blonde hair and provocative style made her a fan favorite. Harlow's affair with Clark Gable was one of the most famous scandals in Hollywood at the time. Gable was already married, but he and Harlow could not resist their attraction to each other. Their relationship was passionate and tumultuous, and it ended when Harlow died suddenly of kidney failure in 1937. When Harlow was only 21 years old, her 43-year-old husband was found sprawled in front of a mirror, drenched in Harlow's perfume with a bullet through his head. Harlow was cleared of any involvement, and unlike most stars of early Hollywood who got involved in scandal, Harlow's fame only grew after her husband's death. Number 22, Clint Eastwood. A man of few words, he may be, but Clint Eastwood's prowess in the sack speaks volumes. Married twice, the man with no name has also enjoyed numerous encounters with women and has at least 8 children from 5 different lovers to prove it. High-profile flings include those with Catherine Deneuve, Jean Seberg, and Barbra Streisand, a rawhide stuntwoman, a flight attendant, and a TV reporter hired to interview him are only some of the women who were exposed as Clint's many mistresses over the years. Most recently, the movie star has been linked to a woman 33 years his junior, a restaurant hostess who was hired to work at the hotel that he currently owns and lives at. Number 21, Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate was a beautiful and talented actress who was known for her roles in films such as Valley of the Dolls and Rosemary's Baby. Tate had a number of affairs with famous men, including Roman Polanski, Steve McQueen, and Jay Sebring. She was also rumored to have had affairs with Warren Beatty and Dean Martin. Number 20, Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando's tumultuous personal life is well documented. The tormented genius was a self-confessed sex addict, totally at ease sleeping with men or women. He married 3 times, had affairs with hundreds more, and fathered at least 11 children. Eva Marie Saint, Grace Kelly, Rita Moreno, and Ingrid Bergman numbered among his bedmates. Brando lusted after men with the same vigor and acknowledged James Dean, Tyrone Power, Laurence Olivier, Cary Grant, and Richard Pryor as some of those he slept with. Number 19, Ava Gardner. Gardner was one of the most glamorous actresses of the golden age of Hollywood, and she was known for her fiery personality and her independent spirit. She had many affairs with famous men, including Frank Sinatra, Clark Gable, and Howard Hughes. While seeing Sinatra, Gardner also had an affair with Robert Mitchum, who was married at that time. She said that she was crazy about him. Gardner was also in a relationship with Howard Hughes, who she claimed that she never loved, asserting that despite the generosity he showed her while paying for her dying mother's medical care, he was also a racist. Then in 1945, she married Artie Shaw, who left his wife for her, but by that time, Gardner smoked 3 packs of Winston's a day and got drunk constantly. But 1 week after their first anniversary, Shaw dumped her for another woman. Another man that she had a relationship with was George C. Scott, who, she said, often drunkenly beat her. Number 18, Jack Nicholson. Veteran actor Jack Nicholson, with over 2,000 sexual bettings, has made it to the list. Kim Basinger once stated of Nicholson that he is crazy. She hasn't met anyone so obsessed with sex like him. Insanely enough, when Nicholson was once asked in an interview about how many children he has fathered, he responded to the interviewer, "There could be 9,000 for all I know. I used to live so freely. Women are never enough for me. There were days when I used to go to bed with 4 or more. but none of them can take away my freedom. Until the end of my days, I'll remain a bachelor. Number 17, Daisy and Violet Hilton. Conjoined twins Daisy and Violet Hilton are likely best known for starring in Todd Browning's cult masterpiece, Freaks, and Henry L. Fraser's exploitation flick, Change for Life.
Go ahead, close them. What did I do?
Pretty, vivacious, and alluring, the twins, who were joined at the lower back and spine, allegedly had dozens of affairs. They were supposedly welcomed by A-list America and promptly embraced all of its hedonistic pleasures, partying hard and even taking a string of lovers. They also married, divorced, and had a baby. Being conjoined, they had no physical privacy, so Harry Houdini taught them how to mentally tune each other out when necessary or needed, a skill, as the piece points out, that they would later use to great effect in the bedroom. Their first of several affairs was apparently with a married friend, whose wife named them as correspondents in her divorce proceedings. Daisy later sought to marry musician Jack Lewis, but he eventually left her after 21 states refused to grant him a marriage license, technically because wedding Daisy and her sister would have counted as bigamy. Number 16, Warren Beatty. At his height as a movie star, Warren Beatty was known for his romantic life almost as much as his movie roles. He was linked from everyone from Natalie Wood and Joan Collins to Cher and Madonna. Carly Simon even called him a glorious specimen of man in her memoir. One of his biographers, Peter Biskin, estimated in 2010 that Beatty slept with 12,775 women in his life. But in an interview with AARP, the magazine, the actor and director says that's all an urban legend. Beatty laughed off the number, saying it's wildly exaggerated. Think about it. Sleeping with 12,775 people, he said. That would mean not just that there were multiple people a day, but that there was no repetition. He didn't clarify with an actual number, but he also didn't deny sleeping around during his heyday. Look, I never misled anyone, he said, and I'm a nice guy. He said that staying relatively unattached until his 50s helped boost that number just by default. I waited a long time to be married, he said. When you don't get married until you're 54, well, as Arthur Miller said, it comes with the territory. His status in Hollywood also contributed to his reputation as a ladies' man. You're participating in a profession that, for obvious reasons, needs to heighten elements of sexuality, he said, and that amplifies if you delay marriage a long time. Beatty finally settled down and has been married to Annette Bening for 24 years, and they have 4 children together. And anyway, even his rumored tally didn't stand up to Wilt Chamberlain's claim of 20,000 partners. Number 15, Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo chose to never marry, but she sure loved to get around. The silver screen icon went out with men and women, gays and straights, singletons and married people, and she did it all on her own terms. After he enlisted at the start of World War II, the actor Gilbert Roland wrote in his memoirs that Garbo took him to bed to celebrate, even giving him a pair of her panties as a keepsake. But it was widely known that she bedded the discreetly gay fashion photographer Cecil Beaton. Starting in the mid-40s and continuing for 3 decades, Garbo and Beaton dated intermittently and were seen together at different times in New York and California, London and Paris. But Garbo had never been short of lovers. When MGM hired Sven Hugo Borg to be her interpreter in LA when the actress moved there in 1925, she quickly welcomed the handsome translator into her bed. In the 1934 movie The Painted Veil, George Brent's character nonchalantly seduced the unhappy wife portrayed by Garbo, while in real life, Greta and George enjoyed a romantic interlude for a while. She even moved in with him, Gottlieb writes. At a 1941 New Year's Eve party, Garbo met Eric Maria Remarque, author of All Quiet on the Western Front, who, although married, was a playboy known for many lovers, which soon included Garbo. Later in the war, Orson Welles briefly dated Garbo. That is, until he saw her refuse an autograph request from a uniformed soldier on crutches. Welles found that behavior disqualifying and immediately stopped seeing her. In 1934, Rouben Mamoulian directed Garbo in the well-received Queen Christina, while also enjoying intimate relations with his Swedish star. But Condé Nast writer-editor Leo Lerman reported in his journal, The Grand Surprise, that Dietrich told him the director gave Garbo gonorrhea. As for her lesbian leanings, Garbo had documented dalliances with Tula Bankhead, Billie Holiday, Louise Brooks, and a rumored affair with Josephine Baker. But the actress's enigmatic love life was perhaps best summed up by her alliance with the poet Mercedes de Acosta. Number 14. Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner is single-handedly responsible for the popularity of the word playboy in the popular imagination.
Will you marry me?
I'm already married.
I'm married as well.
As his Playboy empire is the 20th century's most vivid example of a womanizer's dream. Young and attractive women would stay with him in the infamous Playboy mansion. He would even have multiple girlfriends at once, as seen in the reality TV show The Girls Next Door, 2005 to 2010. Unfortunately, as is often the case, this womanizer had a dark side. While Hefner proclaimed to be a feminist and about sexual liberation, a recent documentary, Secrets of Playboy, has revealed that he was a predator who would use drugs to control the women around him and take advantage of them sexually. Number 13. Jeune Maro. Jeune Maro was known for her promiscuity, which was unusual for a French actress at the time. If reports are to be believed, she had an enviable, colorful love life. A long marriage to actor Jean-Louis Richard was succeeded by relationships with Louis Malle, Francois Truffaut, and Miles Davis. The bisexual director Tony Richardson left his wife Vanessa Redgrave for Moreau, but that relationship did not lead to marriage. She was, in the late 1970s, married to the U.S. director William Friedkin, who, with the French Connection, unveiled new wave techniques into American cinema. That neat alias had ended in 1979. She was also rumored to have had affairs with Marlon Brando, Jean-Paul Belmondo, and Alain Delon. Number 12. Charlie Chaplin. If you've ever seen a Charlie Chaplin movie, it's hard to imagine the guy was guilty of any crimes, except maybe stealing a shoe to eat or something. It turns out that the man had an appetite for more than footwear. Chaplin was not only into sex, the man was a pioneer of sexual deviance. His taste for underage women is well documented. His wives' ages were 16, 16, and 18. He and Fatty Arbuckle are reported to have organized elaborate Hollywood orgies. Apparently, Chaplin was also one of the first pioneers of the casting couch method. Not only did he sleep with ladies as part of the audition process, but the man also subjected them to some truly weird shit. Film historian Kevin Browning claims Charles would only communicate with the actress he was auditioning via caption cards and mime, supposedly to test their ability to perform in silent movies. The cards would become ever more lewd and suggestive as he got them to undress, and he would fondle their breasts in an exaggerated silent movie acting manner. Eventually, he would get them to stand naked and throw custard pies at them. That sort of puts all of our embarrassing job interviews in perspective. Number 11. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was once an aspiring actress whose promise was blighted by her problems with alcoholism and drug addiction. Her life was the subject of much public interest. She was said to have had affairs with most of the big movers and shakers of the 1950s Hollywood, most of them married at the time. She finally met Francois Tonnet, an actor who had once been married to Joan Crawford. She became engaged to Tonnet, but then met Tom Neal. Tom is another actor, but in smaller budget movies than Tonnet. Another thing Francois and Tom had in common is that Tom had once had a fling with Joan Crawford. This was too much of a scandal for even Hollywood to stomach. Barbara's career was basically over at this point. She got a few more acting jobs, but nothing that amounted to much. Her relationship with Tom Neal fell apart, and now she didn't have her career or the man she wrecked it for. She was a heavy drinker and also started using drugs, falling into the trap of heroin. She started having sex for money, but even the appeal of buying sex with a Hollywood starlet began to fade as her looks began to decline due to her addictions. By the end, she was only charging $5 a lay. She had bouts of homelessness and trouble with the law, a familiar story for junkies and prostitutes. After one court ordered a hospital stay, she went back to her parents to try to dry out. Unfortunately, it was too late. She died of heart and liver failure. She was 39 years old. Number 10, Frank Sinatra. The Rat Pack is legendary for their antics. Aspiring bad boy Hollywood pro crews are still measured in relation to the Rat Pack's debauchery. Sinatra was a legendary womanizer. It's well known that his 4 marriages were just the tip of the iceberg. Frank's affairs were as numerous as his songs. Between 1954 and 1971, in between brief marriages to Ava Gardner and Mia Farrow, he conducted an incomparable, prolific love life with everyone from Hollywood royalty to cigarette girls, all the while, as daughter Tina writes, failing to make a truly intimate connection with any of the hundreds, if not thousands, of women he bedded. Sinatra was also linked to Judy Garland, Lauren Bacall, and Marilyn Monroe at different points in his romantic life. And picky. According to his longtime valet George Jacobs, Kim Novak's legs were too heavy for him, but her face made up for it. Judith Campbell Exner, ex-girlfriend of Frank, JFK, and mobster Sam Giancana, is quoted as saying, "Each girl in Frank's life has a certain amount of time allotted to her. Except for Ava, of course, who lingered like a haunting refrain." The marriage proposals were endless. London Evening Standard columnist Thomas Wiseman reported Frank Sinatra and Lauren Bacall would marry within 6 months, barring an act of Providence or Ava Gardner. Other near misses included Juliet Prowse, Gloria Vanderbilt, Marilyn Monroe, Pamela Churchill Hayward, and Edith Mayer Getz, daughter of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer studio head Louis B. Mayer. The latter, when asked by Frank to marry him, famously responded, "Why, Frank, I couldn't marry you. You're nothing but a hoodlum." He suffered from depression, which often led to alcohol, pills, and fistfights. Sinatra's brawling history is almost comical, as he exchanged blows with everyone from airport employees to casino executives. Old Blue Eyes even had significant ties to organized crime. We can't underestimate significant. The FBI had almost 2,500 pages of information about his ties to the mob. His way apparently included a path of self-destruction that few stars could ever hope to match. Number 9, Jayne Mansfield. Next to Mae West, Jayne Mansfield is probably more associated with racy and fabulous good times than any other actress in Hollywood history. Who can forget that shot of Sophia Loren side-eyeing Mansfield's prominent cleavage? The blonde bombshell had countless lovers and erotic romps, and was even rumored to have been a mistress of JFK. But her most notorious association was with Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan. According to sources, Mansfield was not above tormenting the obsessed Satanist. Mansfield had a daughter with her first husband, public relations professional Paul Mansfield. She was the mother of 3 children from her second marriage to actor, bodybuilder Mickey Hargitay, including actress Marissa Hargitay. She also had a son with her third husband, film director Matt Simber. Number 8, Errol Flynn. You know the phrase, "in like Flynn"? Yeah, this dude was Flynn. The rakish charmer best remembered as the original tights-wearing Robin Hood had the kind of boyish good looks that could help you get away with anything. Scratch that. It turns out he could get away with almost anything. But first, a little background. Flynn started out using his charms for no good early on. He was expelled numerous times from school, including once for bedding a laundress. Fame only fueled his taste for booze and women. Once he hit the big time, he snuck around on his wife like it was a job. The MGM PR department had that on lock, though, even going as far to have Flynn pen an essay on Hollywood morality. Flynn was ultimately too much of a bad boy for even the best in the PR game. Things started to go downhill for Flynn, and fast, in the 1940s. He developed an alleged taste for underage girls. A trial for 2 counts of statutory rape didn't stop Flynn. He beat the charges, though the evidence looks pretty grim, who continued to debauch himself so much that he is rumored to have been unfit for military service due to his raging alcoholism and collection of venereal diseases. Number 7, Barbara Lamar. Silent movie star Barbara Lamar made just 27 films over the course of her short career. According to LA Weekly, Lamar, who a judge once described as too beautiful to be in a big city, started out seeking fame by traveling across the country with her second husband. She eventually left him to marry her third spouse, a dancer and check forger. Eventually, she made it to Hollywood and was noticed by Douglas Fairbanks. She subsequently became famous for her wild love life. She left her husband in 1921, and her dramatic, liberated bon mots, which titillated the lost generation of flappers and philosophers. I take lovers like roses, by the dozen, she said. I cheat nature. I never sleep more than 2 hours per night. I have other things to do. One loves to live, only because one lives to love. Including her first husband, whom she wed at 17, Barbara married 5 times. Her first marriage came after her first arrest. She was hauled in for performing burlesque at the age of 14. Lamar was a fixture of the Hollywood club scene during her short life and was linked to a variety of men, from dancer Robert Hobday to Arizona rancher Jack Lytle. The parade of men alone wasn't enough excitement for Lamar, who reportedly only slept 2 hours a night and was addicted to heroin throughout adulthood. Lamar's wildlife caught up with her in short order. She died at the age of 29 from tuberculosis. Number 6, Clark Gable. There have been a lot of womanizers in Hollywood history, but rarely have they been a match for Clark Gable. As one author put it, Clark Gable was married 5 times, slept with nearly all of his co-stars, and cheated on everyone.
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Womanizing was a part of Gable's career from the very beginning. He started acting in Portland, Oregon, as the result of a dalliance when young Mr. Gable hooked up with a theater manager 17 years his senior. This started a sugar mama trend with Gable, who quickly realized that there were a number of women out there who would pay all of his bills for him. Living on the dime of his female admirers, Gable rose to fame and a contract with MGM, which only served to increase his lustful appetite. He was so brazenly sexual with Joan Crawford that MGM threatened to exercise their morality clause in his and her contract if they couldn't maintain decorum as they stuck around with each other. He went on to hook up with former child star Loretta Young and impregnate her, much to the chagrin of the MGM brass. Note that neither of these women were his wives, and by the time he was done with Young, he was also finishing up with wife number 2. Despite Gable's reputation, women lined up for him throughout his life. As Doris Day put it, he was as masculine as any man I've ever known, and as much a little boy as a grown man could be. It was this combination that had such a devastating effect on women. Number 5, Diana Dors. The 50s was a glamorous era, and curvy actresses were the epitome of it. Styled as England's answer to Marilyn Monroe, Diana Dors was one of the women who exuded sensuality during a time of restrained feminine sensuality. The gorgeous actress seemed destined for greatness. That is, until her scandalous personal life threw a terrible shadow over everything. Diana participated in the common casting couch practices, a euphemism for exchanging a certain type of favor for acting jobs. Biographers and friends claim her husband made arrangements between Diana and influential producers and actors to further her career, as well as his ambitions. She had 3 abortions. As a young actress, Diana got pregnant on 3 occasions, which would have impacted her fledgling acting career. She had no choice but to make an incredibly difficult decision. She opted for 3 abortions, which would have created a huge scandal back then. Her first abortion happened when she was dating Michael Caborn Waterfield, and it was one of the most trying moments of her life. Dors was married 3 times, had numerous lovers, and was rather quaintly called a wayward hussy by the Archbishop of Canterbury. She was famous not just for starring in low-budget films, but for filming people having sex in her house. Number 4, Lupe Valdez. Though Velez made great professional success for much of her career, the actress known as the Mexican Spitfire was plagued by a tumultuous personal life. Velez engaged in a series of affairs involving a who's who of the golden age of Hollywood. She was linked to Clark Gable, Charlie Chaplin, Errol Flynn, and Gary Cooper, who she shot at, you'll recall, and many more men during her life. Velez dated actor Gary Cooper for many years and called him the love of her life. But she was jealous of him and accused him of having an affair with actor Anderson Lawler, among other people. According to some stories, she supposedly unzipped Cooper's pants at social gatherings to sniff at his crotch, claiming that she smelled Lawler's cologne. She was a jealous lover. After discovering Gable's affair with Marlene Dietrich, she threatened to rip out Dietrich's eyes given the chance. She was as protective of her career as she was of her men. Dolores Del Rio, Velez's primary rivalry, was afraid to meet Lupe, as she was often so biting and aggressive towards her in public, and she was not the only actress afraid of Velez. In her mid-30s, amid rumors of a pregnancy by a married man, Velez took her own life after overdosing on sleeping pills. Known for her unbridled exhibitionism, Velez was rumored to have had hundreds of lovers and to have routinely participated in bawdy acts like lifting her dress above her head to reveal her habitual refusal to wear underwear. However, most of these reports were probably exaggerated. Velez was said to have deliberately encouraged gossip. Number 3, Clara Bo. Silent film it girl Clara Bo was one of cinema's first starlets, and one of its most luridly famous ones. As this piece in The Hairpin puts it, when she retired in 1931 amid a tangle of scandals, she was all of 28 years old. Yet, most of the scandals that developed around her name and persona came from fallouts associated with old-fashioned romanticism, which Bo believed in as much as anybody. As the article puts it, like many female stars of the time, Bo treated the boyfriends that she most likely slept with as engagements. This led to a series of quickly formed and broken engagements to the likes of Gary Cooper, the director Victor Fleming, and Latin lover Gilbert Roland. When she had a case of nerves in the late 20s, she was treated by a Hollywood doctor. She developed a crush on the doctor. When the doctor's wife sued for divorce, she named Bo as the cause for alienation of affection. No good. No good, but perhaps unjust. There were other scandals that rocked Bo too. Most notoriously, the accusation that she'd slept with the entire USC football team. Bo was also screwed over by her secretary, who stole her personal records and then attempted to blackmail the actress in court by alleging all manner of constant drunkenness and hookups. It is unclear exactly what stories about Clara Bo are true and which were made up. She wronged the newspaper editor, who became hell-bent on blackmailing her, and as a result, she got more bad press than Miley Cyrus and Lilo combined. The tabloid, the Coast Reporter, accused Bo of bestiality, incest, and of contracting a variety of venereal diseases. These accusations proved untrue, but she still got into some pretty crazy stuff. Number 2, Gary Cooper. A biography of Gary Cooper basically reads like this. He starred in movie and quickly began an affair with co-star of said movie. Now repeat that line dozens of times. Cooper has stiff competition for biggest womanizer in Hollywood history, but the fact that Gary is rumored to have hooked up with every one of his co-stars, including fellow list members Clara Bo and Lupe Valdez, puts him pretty high in the running. He famously began an affair with Marlene Dietrich while dating Velez, igniting a nasty feud between the two actresses. Velez insisted upon being on set with Cooper and Dietrich at all times, and even tried to shoot him once she felt her suspicions were confirmed. Cooper continued to bet his co-stars, including Tula Bankhead, who famously said, "The only reason I went to Hollywood was to fuck that divine Gary Cooper." While many of the women on this list were chewed up and spit out by the tabloids or the studios, the press painted Cooper as a reformed, admired member of society, even though he continued to have affairs. Perhaps his scummiest moment came when at 47, he bedded his 21-year-old co-star, Patricia Neal, and insisted she have an abortion. No, that didn't hurt his career either. Number 1, Tula Bankhead. In the pantheon of scandalous starlets, few, if any, compare to Tula Bankhead. Whereas other actors and actresses may have tried to hide their controversial exploits from the public, Bankhead was unabashedly open about her life. In fact, maybe too open. Because of Bankhead's brutal honesty, we know all there is to know about her, from her steamy affairs with co-stars to her absolutely legendary comebacks.
Okay, boys. Run along and have a good time. If you want anything, just holler.
Swell fella, Tallulah.
Tula Bankhead broke many stereotypes, but there's one that she definitely lived up to. She was a daddy's girl through and through. Later in life, she searched desperately for a man who could live up to her father's example, only to come up short. Of course, men weren't the only ones she chased. Bankhead had a thing for the ladies, too. In fact, her father was the source of one of Bankhead's most scandalous and telling quotes about her love life. My father warned me about men and booze, but he never mentioned a word about women. Having a somewhat absentee father also led young Tallulah to posture desperately for attention, not just from him, but from whoever else was around. Bankhead was such a performer and so full of energy that it was hard for her caregivers to keep up with her. These displays could quickly devolve into terrifying outbursts. Her tantrums would get so overblown and violent that her grandmother would have to throw a bucket of ice water on her to get her to calm down. Still, very little could bring her down. While she did heed her father's warnings about booze, she still got into the other substances that were floating around. And that wasn't all she did. While Bankhead never identified as bi, she did sleep with both men and women. And she quickly fell in love with a subset of queer women within the group, one of the women being jazz singer Billie Holiday. And that's a wrap on Hollywood's wildest love lives. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more juicy content. Check out our other videos for more celebrity scandals and stories. Thanks for watching.